Hey guys, tonight we'll travel back to 1938. We'll follow one girl's journey from music student to refugee to survivor. Not because hers is the only story worth telling, but because it's one of the few that survived. This is Dust and Ink, where the past isn't loud, but it echoes.
If you find something here that lingers, feel free to stay a while. Now dim the lights, take a breath.
Vienna, 1938. Lisa Jura was 14 years old when she left Vienna with a single suitcase, a bundle of piano sheet music, and no return ticket. She was one of nearly 10,000 Jewish children placed on what the British government called the Kindertransport, a rescue mission, if you believed in tidy euphemisms. But what it really meant was you were put on a train, your parents stayed behind, and everything you knew became memory. Before the world cracked open, Lisa's life was mostly music. She lived in a modest Vienna apartment with her parents and two younger sisters. Her father was a tailor, her mother fiercely protective. Lisa was the eldest, headstrong, talented, endlessly practicing piano. Her teacher said she had hands like velvet and a future on stage. Lisa believed it. At 14, you're allowed to believe in impossible things. But in March 1938, everything changed. The Nazis marched into Austria. Shops were smashed, synagogues defaced. Jewish men were dragged from their homes in broad daylight, including Lisa's father, who was arrested and released only days later, bruised and silent. Lisa's piano lessons ended without warning, not because she stopped playing, but because Jews were no longer welcome in public spaces, including music schools. But still she practiced, at night, in silence, her fingers dancing over keys she could barely hear, as if she could play her way through fear. The Jura family had no wealth, no visas, and no illusions. When the Nazis took her father's tailoring license, they also took away the last income keeping them afloat. But they still had one hope. The British government had agreed to take in unaccompanied Jewish children from Nazi-controlled areas, but only the children. Parents were forbidden to accompany them. There were no guarantees, no adoption program, just names on a list, and trains to an unfamiliar island. The Juras had 3 daughters, but they could only afford to send one. They chose Lisa. She was the oldest, the most fluent in English, and maybe, in some impossible future, she could bring the others. Her mother sewed coins into the lining of her coat. Her father handed her a tiny envelope. Inside it was a sheet of piano music, and nothing else. Then, one morning, they kissed her at the train station and stepped back. Lisa boarded without crying. She thought if she kept her hands in her pockets, she could stop them from shaking. She thought if she sat very still, she could keep everything she loved from falling apart. She was wrong. I'd like to take a few seconds to ask you to subscribe to Dust and Ink, but only if you enjoy what I'm doing here. Thanks. The train crossed into the Netherlands, then a boat to England, then another train and another, until she finally arrived at Liverpool Street Station in London. The Kindertransport children weren't met with celebration. There were no bands, no parades, just overworked aid workers, makeshift hostels, and a kind of loneliness that settled deep into the bones. Lisa was sent to a Jewish girls' hostel in Willesden Lane, a large house crammed with other young refugees, each with their own silent grief. The rooms were cold and the blankets thin. Every child slept with the knowledge that their parents might already be dead. But there was a piano, out of tune, dusty, but a piano nonetheless. Lisa played, at first just to keep from breaking, then for the others, and eventually to audition for a place at the Royal Academy of Music. She was accepted, even as the Blitz fell across London, even as sirens screamed and bombs flattened neighborhoods. Lisa played in basements, between air raids, during blackouts, because that's what you do when the world falls apart. You play through the silence. You find a thread and you don't let go. Lisa never returned to Vienna. Her parents were sent to separate concentration camps. Her father died. Her mother survived. They found each other again, years later, changed beyond recognition. But Lisa never stopped playing, and more importantly, she never stopped telling the story. She became a concert pianist, taught music, raised children. One of them, her daughter Mona Golubeck, wrote a book about her mother's life, The Children of Willesden Lane, and it has been read by thousands of school children around the world. Lisa Jura didn't outrun Hitler in the way war stories are usually told. She didn't fire a gun. She didn't lead a rebellion. She boarded a train, alone, and carried her music forward. And that, in the end, was more than enough. Thank you for watching, listening, and more importantly, thinking. Subscribe to the channel if you want more, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about this topic and what you'd like to know more about. Good night.